Hi, today on a part of our info series we have the wonderful Rodrigo Rodriguez, and he's going to talk about real estate, which is, I think, the biggest information session you're going to want to listen to.
The biggest mistake is thinking Mexico has the same regulations as the United States, thinking that we do businesses the same way. And unfortunately, there is an element of trust. If I go let's say I go to Los Angeles, and I see an American-run real estate office, and I see a Yucatecan-run real estate office, of course there is this click of a sense of friendship and camaraderie or fellow citizenship. You are driven to hire other expats who are doing that business here. And I am not generalizing that that's a mistake. Of course, that's a natural thing to do, and I know a lot of expat companies that are doing a great job. The problem is that this opens the possibility to people to commit frauds. And thinking that Mexico works the same way as the United States is a mistake. For example, no business in real estate in Mexico is valid if people ask you to deposit your escrow money in a U.S. account. One, because there's no such a thing as escrow accounts in Mexico. That doesn't exist. It's not part of our law. Anybody asking for an escrow deposit is not telling the truth, because escrow companies in Mexico do not exist. Depositing money in the United States to buy property in Mexico is not allowed by the Mexican tax authorities. No Mexican tax authority would ever ask you to deposit money abroad to buy property here. That's a big way to avoid paying taxes in Mexico. There's no such a thing as an escrow. The Mexican system to buy property is you don't pay a penny until there is a public fedatary or a public notary in Mexico reporting, after doing the due diligence procedures of not having any lien, that the person selling the property is the rightful person, that the property doesn't have any boundaries or registration or updated construction.
And they say, don't worry, fly down for a week, you can use my lawyer.
That's the worst thing you can do, because you are relying to one person who doesn't care about protecting your interest. I have seen real estate agents who do not care neither to protect the buyer or the seller. They just want to cash their 6% deposit, and if the process doesn't conclude, they don't care. They are fully covered, because usually the escrow account is under the real estate agent in U.S. Imagine the difficulties to pursue legally to get that, because one, that was not a contract valid in Mexico because it was not done by a notary. Second, it was not deposited in Mexico. So the first problem will be establishing a proper jurisdiction. You bought a house, supposedly in Mexico, you made a deposit to a private person in the United States. Mexico doesn't have anything to do with that. If you want to recover your money, hire a lawyer in the United States and try to see if you can obtain that with U.S. lawyer fees. No? So the first thing you have to understand is that in Mexico, that escrow thing doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
Can anybody sell real estate in Mexico? There's no licensing. Is there anything?
There is an association called AMPI, which is an association that gathers real estate professionals. This credential and license is not that well developed in Mexico. We have serious problems with, and not only in real estate, in every single aspect of the Mexican professions. Some members of some lawyers established that asking a credential to somebody is attempting against human rights, because you participating to a body of professionals and they overseeing what you're doing is seen as red tape. So, and especially in a poor country in which if you want to build a house, getting a professional with certain credential can represent more money. We don't have that market that developed, but we are going that way, because the downside of that is that anybody can do certain things and they don't have proper surveillance, and there are many, the risk of following into fraud is very, very, very high. However, there is a group of people called AMPI, which is the local association, the National Association for Real Estate Agents. Anybody registered there has followed courses, regulations, and has certain degree of validity of what they do. But the problem is you don't have to be licensed to practice the profession yet. So yes, anybody can.
We see that all the time. We see people, anybody.
My suggestion is, when buying property in Mexico, you should hire your own, forget attorney, because there are many attorneys too. In Mexico, you cannot transfer ownership of a house if you are not a notary. And there is a big difference between a notary in the States and a notary in Mexico. In Mexico, you have to be a lawyer and you have to follow a lot of evaluations and basically grab your number and wait, sometimes up to 20 years to become a notary. A notary is a special official that doesn't belong to the government, but receives government power to supervise certain activities. So the amount of notaries per community depends on the amount of inhabitants. I am not sure about the amount, but I think Merida, Yucatan, has 100 notaries or so. Having a notary is very difficult, and it's very complicated, and you are completely restricted by many authorities, tax authorities, government authorities, municipal authorities, that you do your job properly, because notaries can withhold taxes. They have that authority. They can take taxes and then they have to report it to the rightful Mexican agency. So if you do your procedure with a notary, you cannot fail. So if somebody tells you, I'm a real estate lawyer, you have to ask, okay, what is the notary that we're going to use? Or can I use my notary? Most real estate agents tell you, use my notary. But sometimes that notary doesn't even know that there is a process going on. So what a buyer has to do is, without jeopardizing your operation, is telling any of the involved parties that that's fine. You are interested in buying the property, but one, you want your purchase agreement to be done in Spanish with a certified translator that you trust in the public notary that you choose. And there are 100 public notaries, and they are all online. You just put notaries in Yucatan, notaries in Quintana Roo. There is a listing with names. You contact them, and you can ask for closing budgets or closing fees before, because I have seen activities of purchase that have fallen apart because nobody was aware of the closing fees. And sometimes they don't mention what the notary is going to charge. And the notaries have a very limited amount. They have rates that they cannot invent. And of course, there is a third party involved, which is a bank, because if you are buying in Yucatan, Merida, or 50 kilometers from the shore, you cannot have direct ownership of a property. You need to get a fideicomiso. But if you are buying a property that is already registered under a trust, the closing fees are even cheaper because it's just transferring. And I have seen, the other day I saw how an operation wasn't completed because an already existing trust, they were charging $11,000 for closing fees. And when we analyzed exactly how much it was going to be, the real fee of the notary, the real fee of the bank, everything, it wasn't more than $2,500. So the realtor is making, or somebody is making, not only the percentage of the commission, but also the percentage of closing. It's a win-win-win-win.
And tell me, why do real estate agents on the beach get 6%, and yet in Merida it's 2.5 or 3%?
It's something that probably has to do with the United States, how much a real estate agent charges there. So the thing is, if you're used to an escrow account that your agent is doing everything and charging that, you come with that set of mind, and you also come with that set of prices. I have seen houses that the Mexican party is selling in $20,000, and the realtor says, okay, no, 20,000, you are crazy. This is 120. But if you're happy with 20,000, that's fine. Let me charge 100, and I give you your 20,000, and I take care of everything. And we Mexicans say, well, if you can find somebody who can actually get this property in 120, that's fine, do it. So many real estate agents, unfortunately expats, because they are the ones who know the market. Every single expat has told me, Rodrigo, I live in Chicago. Small, almost homeless places cost $500,000, no? Having a beachfront house for $100,000 here is just, it's a bargain,
Yeah.
no? But if they tell you, what if I sell it that bargain in $50,000? Nobody is against their money, but unfortunately many values have been inflated because of these terrible differences in values. So my suggestion is, don't buy online, rent, come, check the market, check the neighborhood, find professionals, listen to, I mean, it's a lot of money, the one that you are
Yes.
planning. I mean, even if it is cheap, that doesn't mean you have to be led to fraud, no?
Yes.
So,
Brain in the Gulf, that's what we say. They come here, they leave their brain in the Gulf.
No, it gets sucked out by the Gulf of
Sucked out
Mexico.
by the Gulf, yeah.
so I highly suggest that you hire, but even if you don't want to do that, because I understand that many people are planning ahead, they cannot come here as often as they want, they are buying their retirement home 10 years or 15 years before they get retired, etc. Because we Mexicans, we plan the following day, no? I have seen that expats really like to plan ahead. Okay, if you want to do that, that's fine. Get a notary that nobody involved in the transaction recommends you. Get a notary from the listing of notaries, ask a budget, or you can get 3 of them. Ask budgets, interview them, and see who
Feel comfortable with.
Yes, but most of them will give you a very different a number compared to what your real estate agents. And let me be very clear here. Not everybody is like that. Not everybody is like that. There are people here who have been in the market for many, many, many years and who have sold the same house 5 times without any problem, and many expats feel very comfortable with the service, etc. But unfortunately, you never know if that who's going to be helping you during your transaction is one of the good ones, or you are going to be about one of the scammed ones, no? And I really think that it's a very big amount of money. You should be.
Some of us, even
Yeah.
50,000 is a lot.
For some people, it's their entire lifetime savings, and it's not correct that you put that in jeopardy because of using the incorrect people.